Hey, how's it going, everybody, and welcome back into another episode of Mock Draft Week here on the SFS channel. My name's Gavin, and today we're going to be joined finally here. We've been doing some offline mocks the last few days for these episodes, but we are joined by members of the community Discord today. That, of course, as always, is linked down in the description of today's video. It's absolutely free. We want as many of you hopping in there. If you're new around here to the channel or have been sticking with me for a while now and haven't joined for some reason, get yourself the Discord app. You can have it on your phone, and it's super easy to use. It's just a way for me to send information out in a large group setting, interact with you, answer your questions, and then give you access to these mock drafts. And again, I'll be doing some giveaways here pretty shortly as well. And I'm actually going to be giving away a draft guide to one of these Discord members tonight, but I haven't announced that yet to them, so they are unaware of that until after this or potentially once this video comes out to you guys. So thank you all so much for tuning into today's video. Drop down, give us a like before we get started today. Let's hit that intro and get right into the video. Alrighty, here we go, kicking off today's draft. We have got ourselves, again, shout out to the community Discord, showing out today, filling this thing up, a full PPR 10-team mock draft here in the first week of August for the 2021 fantasy football season. Shout out to my man Jokester at the 110 draft position who suggested this league size and scoring format for today's video. Currently, everybody is in the mock draft, it looks like, except for the team with the first overall pick. We gave them a couple minutes to get in here, but unfortunately, I've got a bit of a time crunch today, so I've limited the clock to 60 seconds per pick, and hopefully we'll be moving through this episode quickly and getting you some good fantasy content and information here at a rapid pace. So I am sitting there, seated at the 1.9 draft position. You see the SFS logo right above. We'll see who falls to me there. If you watched my video from Friday morning, it was essentially, well, it was titled How to Win Your 2021 Fantasy Football League, and there we go, kicking things off with an auto pick. So probably not the most likely of situations, but we should see probably CMC go off the board here next, and it'll all balance out fine in the end game here. So yes, so back on Friday morning, so literally just yesterday as of the time I'm posting this video, I came out with my video on how to win your 2021 fantasy football leagues, and essentially the main takeaways from that for early round strategy was that you need to walk away from the first 3 rounds with at least 2 running backs. That's how you're going to give yourself a very, very stable team core and give yourself the opportunity and the chance to maximize your upside with the rest of your picks, because the running back position drops off a lot faster than the rest of the group, and you don't want to fall behind the curve at that spot, because that's when things get dicey. You're looking at having to reach on players later, start players on a week-to-week basis that aren't giving you great lineup value, and it just turns into a messy situation. So, yikes, there we go. 2 auto picks in a row. He's actually on when his pick came up, but then for some reason didn't make his draft selection, and now he's back on the app. So, an interesting thing going down there at the top of the board. But here we go. Picks are being made. They're flying off the board here. We'll see how quickly this thing can get turned around. Again, so we're looking to target 2 of the 3 first picks as running backs. Maybe, just maybe, Saquon Barkley, his ADP, and we're not going to get goofed up here with some auto draft and average draft position funky business unless that team at the 1.1 continues to stay on auto pick, because everyone else is with us right now. But potentially, Saquon Barkley could fall into my lap here. It is a potential possibility. I've seen him fall because there's reports that actually just came out today. He has not been ruled out for anything yet, but his timetable, his time frame is weeks 1 to 3. So you're looking at a player who might miss the first 2 games for you, but also could be back no later than that 3rd performance. So maybe he's ready to go week 1, but maybe not. There's just some question marks, some uncertainty there. So if I do end up getting Saquon here, we're going to go with a safer pick on the back end. I love to pick up an Aaron Jones here as well, and there he goes off the board. So the pick is easy. Saquon Barkley, still on the PUP for the Giants. That's all right. We'll make the draft selection there, and see what Jokester leaves us on the back end of the table here. We're looking at, those receivers are dang good, but my man Travis Kelce's already off the board, and boom, 2 running backs, just like that. Being that it's full PPR, I don't... See, this is where things get tough. I think if I were to gut it out here, and again, just for some context, that league strategy video was for 12-team leagues. This being a 10-team league makes my strategy a bit more flexible. I don't love drafting Nick Chubb in a full PPR league. I think that he's a fantastic RB2 candidate, and he does such great things in his ability to be an explosive rusher, the fact that he is a weapon that can be used down in the red zone to score touchdowns. But I think at this spot, I would be a bit foolish to pass on one of these top 3 wide receivers, as not one of them has gone off the board. So a little bit of value capitalization here, and we'll see if we can come back and pick a running back on the back end. I'm going to kind of roll the dice here. So I'm actually going to go Stephon Diggs, change things up a little bit. So Diggs is actually my wide receiver 2 right now. I have Devonta Adams as my wide receiver 1. But as always in videos, we're trying to shuffle things up a bit, give you a different perspective, and talk about some new players. I have Devontae as my wide receiver 1 because his end zone production has been so good. He is a nose for pay dirt and just gets in there, scores double-digit touchdowns almost every single season. He's got Rodgers throwing to him, 34% of that Green Bay target share last year. But Stephon Diggs for the Buffalo Bills led the NFL in receiving yards last season and only had 7 receiving touchdowns, which netted him the wide receiver 3 finish. Again, he's only my wide receiver 2, but changing things up a little bit, I think him and Adams are very safe picks. I think Tyreek Hill is also that. However, Tyreek Hill, being such a small player, being that his value is predicated on explosive plays, and yes, he has very good volume as well, not quite to the extent of an Adams or a Diggs, but the fact that he scored 15 receiving touchdowns, and most of those come from outside of the 20-yard line, it makes me assume, maybe assume is a bad word, project that his touchdown totals will be trending down this season, whereas Diggs, who only had 7 last year, will be trending upwards. So TDs are such a dicey thing to project year over year, but in general, I would say a safe assessment is if that count looks abnormally high, expect some withdrawal and regression, and if it's lower, by all means, expect either consistency and plateau at that point, or the potential to increase that number. So we saw that with an Alvin Kamara from the 2019 season. His touchdown count was very underwhelming. He comes out in 2020, boom, 21 total touchdowns. It's night and day. That can change year to year. You can lead the league in your respective positions, either rushing or receiving categories, and then just whiff on the touchdown numbers. And then the next season, you can have regression in the yardage department, and then boom on the goal line. So a lot of things come into play here. Let's take a little look here at that running back crop. I still like the idea. If I could get a David Montgomery at the top of the 4th, I doubt Joe Mixon will be there. He's fallen incredibly low in today's mock. DeAndre Swift in a full PPR league, I wouldn't hate. Clyde Edwards-Helaire is interesting here. I hate drafting him in the 2nd round of my half PPR leagues because I don't think that Chiefs backfield has enough of a target share in that offense. Mahomes is looking to push the ball down the field, and for how many receptions you'd expect him to have, he had under 60 targets last season. So not something all that crazy at all. I wouldn't put him out of the conversation here, though, as my 2nd running back drafted off the board here. So again, I need to make that running back position a priority here with these next 2 picks, as Saquon has some uncertainty, some question marks. I had the option of taking a Joe Mixon, but at the end of the day, I felt like I was kind of stacking risk, if you know what I mean, because both of them missed significant time last season. Both of them were held out of a lot of contests. Obviously, Barkley's ACL is a bigger deal, but Joe Mixon has had some pretty large stinker performances, and dang, there he goes, my man, David Montgomery, getting sniped off the board from me. One of my favorites. All good things to say about his fantasy outlook for the season. Matt Nagy says he wants to have him involved at a high level this year. You know, take Matt Nagy's statements for what they're worth, but I think there's a lot of reason to give David Montgomery a workhorse share in that offense. And you have got to be kidding me. These guys, every video, they know my draft strategy like the back of my hand, and they just snipe me over and over and over again. I was wondering, I was going to play my chances if Chris Carson would be there for me at the 4-2, and I was in the back of my mind thinking, no way he gets past Jokester, even though he's taking 2 running backs. And then, of course, 3 straight backs leaves me high and dry here at the back end of things. So, not liking my options at all. And there you see it. This is that SFS RB frenzy that we see go on a tangent here. Justin Jefferson is actually questionable right now. He had a AC joint shoulder injury, which happened in practice at the time of recording this video, like a few hours beforehand. But it's not supposed to be anything significant. And yeah, he'll have a shot to be healthy for week 1. But it's a couple week injury, and we got auto-picked Justin Jefferson, so that's who I was planning to pick there regardless. It seems like a freaking occurrence. It isn't an SFS mock draft if I don't get auto-drafted at least once. We'll see what the best running back on the table is at this next draft position. Okay, so they go double wide receiver. That leaves me some options here. I could pick up a third wide receiver 1 with Allen Robinson, who would be my next best player at that position. I feel that it's time to pull the trigger on the running back group right now. I think that, you see, I have significant question marks and concerns with all 3 of these backs. Maybe we'll go, this has happened to me before here. Okay. New game plan. We're just going to fade the wide receiver position and the running back position and load up everywhere else. So I hate this draft strategy so much, but it's kind of gotten to a point where I'm playing the odds right now. And Saquon, will he be ready? Will he not be ready? Who knows? But what I do know is that when he is healthy, at the worst case scenario by week 3, I've got myself the potential running back to put up RB1 overall numbers week in and week out, especially with that improved New York Giants offense. Daniel Jones is still a question mark. Will that offensive line produce up to standard? That's yet to be seen. But I've seen Saquon Barkley with a far more toxic fantasy environment put up dang good numbers, have incredible amounts of explosive rushes, that being rushes of 20 or more yards. And I think that I can pick up some value here, and maybe, since this is a 10-team draft, I would never attempt to do this in a 12-team league. I have completely disregarded my draft strategy for my 12-team leagues here in the first 4 rounds of today's mock draft. This is what makes it so interesting, so entertaining with having the Discord members in here. These guys are watching the mocks, seeing how I like to draft, and then they come in here. It's like film study for an NFL team. They walk in, they know exactly where I'm going with my picks. It's making me, in that second round, kind of regret not drafting Nick Chubb. But I will say, the upside Stephon Diggs gives me in full PPR is far higher than what Nick Chubb gives you, being that he's more of a standard he's not a bad half PPR play by any stretch of the imagination, but he is much more suited for standard scoring fantasy leagues. We'll see where this brings us, though. I'll say this right now. I'll put it on record. My targets for the rest of the draft board consist of, I don't think Travis Etienne will fall to me, but a player that has been rising a little bit. I still think there's a heck of a lot of risk in that situation. Oh, there you go. So he didn't fall to me at all. That would have been entertaining because reportedly he's been uncoverable in Jags camp. I did say this might be a product of them just having bad personnel in the secondary. They do have some nice young guns, but I think he might be a little bit ahead of the curve for that team. Otherwise, I'm looking at a safe option like a Mike Davis. Absolutely not a flashy pick whatsoever. Virtually little to no upside. But what I'm looking at here, use him to hold down the fort weeks 1 through 3. And if this was a real league, I'm flipping him for some better upside after that. Hopefully he scores a nice touchdown count in those first 3 games, puts up some respectable numbers, and I can move on from him after that. But that's just to hold on the fort. Other names I'm looking at for long-term upside, Javonte Williams, hopefully it will eventually take over that Denver backfield. Ronald Jones, I think, is a very quality running back too. As long as he gets between 12 to 16 touches per game, I think he can give you around 10 fantasy points. Trey Sermon, again, another player who might not see the field right away week 1, but his upside in that Kyle Shanahan offense is spectacular. And then the real money maker here for these full PPR leagues, I'd say not the highest upside play here, but certainly the best floor because of his pass catching ability, is Michael Carter. His ADP is 94th, so that means he should be going in about the early ninth round of this 10-team draft. I'm going to reach on him, though. That's something I talked about being okay to do for those young rookie running backs in my 12-team league winning advice video and draft strategy episode, because I think that for a position that's so thin to begin with, you need all the help, all the talent you can get, especially later on when you're looking for players to really cap off that unit. And in this case, when we are desperate for that talent, and I'm hesitant to position fill early on because I don't want to waste draft picks when I can be picking up wide receiver ones, taking fringe RB2s, which has been brought to light here with the Miles Sanders situation. As if you hadn't seen this already, Miles Sanders and Boston Scott have basically split first team reps evenly in camp so far. I've got my gripes with some other players like Josh Jacobs, especially in full PPR. Only had 33 receptions last season. That's not less than, but incredibly, he's skimming a fine line. It's just barely over 2 receptions per game, which is just not very significant. So just trying to look past that here. Here's a draft pick I think we can feel decent about making. Chances are that my last tier 1 quarterback, Lamar Jackson, might not be available at this next pick. But I think it's incredibly important that I make this selection about not sucking at running back. So that's where we're going to go here. I'm going to prioritize this. I think this is a fair spot to draft Darrell Henderson, and I'm very happy to see that he's still on the board for me here. Not the safest pick. That's why I held off and waited for him in the 4th round. I was considering him there at the 4-2 spot, but as you can see, that would have been a heavy reach, and I was better off playing my options as I got him at the 5-9 position. A little bit less than what his current ADP is. I think that players aren't as high on him because his injury history, and this is another player that might not have the safest floor if he's not available every week. I would say Xavier Jones is a guy you need to pick up if you're going to pair him with Darrell Henderson. Nice 2 picks on the back end there by Jokester. Tyler Lockett and TJ Hawkinson are some of my favorites this year. Okay, that makes my decision a little bit easier. So I was looking at going the Lamar Jackson route, and then I was going to try and go out and snatch up Lockett, who I saw was hanging out for me. But we're gonna look a different direction now. I've already got 3 wide receiver ones on this team. I'm not all that crazy about a Kareem Hunt, to be honest. I think that at best he's a fringe RB2 unless Nick Chubb's out of the lineup. He is a nice PPR play, so he could be a nice RB2 or flex player. I think we're best off just trying to load this lineup up so that once Saquon is healthy and ready to go, this team is just a wrecking crew and has a insanely good starting lineup. So depending on your league playoff size, you might be able to drop a few games at the start of the year. If you're rocking a 12-team league, I've seen 12-team leagues out there with 8 teams make the playoffs. You just got to finish top 8. Even if you're only top 6. Top 4 gets a little bit more tricky. Then every game matters. But if you're playing a top half system where the top 6 players in your league go to the fantasy playoffs, that's a fantastic situation to be in. Then it gives you the freedom, the opportunity, the luxury to go out in the trade market, hunt for players, do what I'm kind of doing with this draft strategy here, putting together a really good top-end lineup when all players are healthy. These guys are going to be booming and putting up huge numbers. But I might lose a game or 2 if Saquon Barkley doesn't play weeks 1 and 2. I think I could overcome it, maybe split the games, go 1-1, and we'll see how my running back group looks at the end of today's episode. But that's something that's certainly in play here. That's something that could be potentially a risk of doing this strategy, but I think at the end of the day, my top end upside is very, very good. So that's why I like the draft strategy today. Let's see here. We've been seeing guys, and this happens when you go RB heavy, some players fall down, some value falls down the board a little bit, and some teams will soak it up, and a lot of those teams end up being players who ended up just going RB heavy because teams that try to get themselves in on the back end of runs are just soaking up the later stages of the value. So let's see here. Lots of nice picks going off the board in that 5th round there. Not so keen on the 2 receivers that just went off the board. I do think it's a fair spot to take them. I think that they got value at where they drafted them. But DJ Moore, Adam Thielen are players who I think have significant risk. DJ Moore being that I think Robbie Anderson might out-target him again this year, and then his quarterback has a previous development of chemistry with Robbie Anderson, and obviously being his first year in the system, that's kind of a red flag for DJ Moore, as he might take a bit of a back seat again. Adam Thielen saw a ridiculous number of touchdowns, 14 in just 15 games played last year. That's going to dig into his value, and I just hope he can maintain the same level of production that he's had in the past, but that yardage number is going to have to come up a lot from that 925 marker. So a lot of receivers coming off the board this round. Jamar Chase was the first in the 6th round to go. Mark Andrews goes in the 6th round as well. I think it's a pretty fair situation, and I think that the way the board's breaking down so far is a fairly accurate representation of most fantasy leagues, especially in this 10-team format. These teams are going to be, in general, a bit deeper. You're going to see your top-end bench players are going to be better than in those 12-team leagues, because every round you're shrinking 2 players off the board. So across 16 rounds, 32 players are not being drafted that are rostered players if your league size is the same between a 12-team and a 10-team league. So a little bit, I don't want to say less competitive, because it actually makes it all the more crucial, I would argue, as to who you start in your lineup, because you're going to have good options no matter what team you're looking at, that you have to make the right lineup choices. 12-team leagues is a bit more draft dependent. Can you secure the best guys in your roster so that when they have the opportunity to step up, they're ready to go for your lineup? So a little bit of a difference in strategy. I'd say 10-team leagues are easier to find quality players late, but also requires more thought on which players you're starting in your lineups. 12-team leagues is a bit more obvious who your starters are every week, but that draft is ever so important, because you have to win draft day if you're going to have a chance in a 12-team league. Alrighty, we're getting close to my next pick here. Still looking at running backs. I wouldn't hate Chase Edmonds in a full PPR league as my RB3. Let's clarify that. RB3. I think I could actually wait on him too. Maybe come out here, lock up an OBJ. There's a few names I could look at here. My top running backs here would probably be, I really don't like James Robinson or Melvin Gordon, because I just think that they're ticking time bombs, and there goes Melvin Gordon. He'll be fantastic, and just like a Mike Davis, the first 6 weeks, 5 weeks of the season, soak up that value, man, and then just flip him. You don't want to have any part in Melvin Gordon's stock once Javonte Williams comes in and starts playing games for this team. It's going to get ugly. You're going to lose a lot of value there. So that's not something you want to become a part of. My 4th receiver off the board, that's why I feel comfortable making this pick. Let's just check the tight ends. Yeah, we're fading tight end until late in today's episode. OBJ is going to be my pick here. I just talked about him a couple days back. This is a player who plays in a system very, very similar to A.J. Brown, and this is going to be a run-first team. They're going to hit high volume play action, not high volume, high yardage play action balls over the top. And Odell's best chance of scoring is to hit a long ball, score a touchdown. He's not going to be a crazy volume play anymore, but this is the same situation we see with the Titans, A.J. Brown, now Julio Jones there as well, and we all think they can produce just fine. So OBJ is coming off an ACL. There is some question marks, some risks, some things you don't love to see here, but at the end of the day, I think he's still a quality pick, and he's going to be a boom bust player. I would not feel comfortable drafting him earlier than my wide receiver 3 on a fantasy team, but in this situation, I get all the better, because now he's my wide receiver 4 and might not even be starting the majority of the weeks if I have quality players step up elsewhere. So just adding some versatility in good matchups. He's going to have some good games. We saw how high his ceiling could be with this team last year, and now it's just a matter of him putting that together and doing it again. So Chase Edmonds, we're going to go with at the A2 pick here, making a lot of selections I don't typically go with. That's just kind of what happens when you get skewed away from your draft strategy, as there's a lot of adversity in the first few rounds for me there. But All the more reason, by the way, to do mock drafts. So that if you get in this situation, do them offline on your own time. Join the Discord channel. I'd love to see you guys in there. But basically, hit up the mock draft boards. Get going on that. You want to know. You don't want your first time that something happens where your strategy goes haywire to be your actual league's draft, because the chances are you're going to come out of things and be like, oh, that was rough. I hate my team. And that's so my reaction today, but I at least have a game plan and have a thought process, a backup plan, a pivot strategy in case things go south. Because if you don't have those things, you're going to start making gross draft reaches and over investments into players. And like I said, you're going to turn around, look at that team in the back end, and wonder what hit you. So make sure being mindful of just keeping up to date, drafting maybe just once a week. Hop in a mock draft, maybe a couple days before your league goes for their official draft. Just do a few mocks. They don't take very long, especially if you do them by yourself. On Sleeper, you can have yourself in a private lobby, pick players, and see where the board takes you. That's going to be a little bit more unrealistic for the simple fact that, like you see today, teams loaded up on running back, which left me kind of hanging there. But if it was the ADP, I probably would have had a better selection, because the draft wouldn't have started out with 8 of the first 9 picks being running backs, or 9 of the first 10, 10 of the first 11, however you want to look at it. It was a very RB-heavy first round. And then third round as well. They went really light in the second and then came back and took them all in the third. So great way. They all perfectly executed my strategy, except for the teams at the top of the board here. But, you know, that Darren Waller pick makes things a little bit different. I talked about that with Travis Kelce in the episode that came out yesterday, where if you're getting a positional advantage at the tight end spot, maybe you don't necessarily have to think so long and hard about having 2 set-in-stone backs. But, yeah, I would say the computer's kind of doing this team dirty down here. Brown and Michael Thomas and Kenny Galladay are, that's about as risky as it gets. And then Kamara with Josh Jacobs are 2 night and day players. And then you've got yourself some marginal back-end running backs there. Back-end RB2s, fringe RB3s. So the Chase Edmonds pick, let's break that down. Chase Edmonds is penciled in to be the starter for the Cardinals offense right now. He's supposedly leaned down, but also bulked up at the same time. So losing body fat, gaining muscle. Because I think that it's fair to say he wants that 3-down workload. He wants to be the guy for this Cardinals offense. But I just don't see that being the case on all 3 downs in every situation. Chase Edmonds is a fantastically efficient player and great in PPR formats. I had him and flexed him a lot last season because he's catching balls out of the backfield, making plays in the open field, making defenders miss in space. But what he's not good at is the goal line. He's not good on the red zone. That's when you're going to see James Conner punch in. And he's gonna scan that time card, walk in there, and vulture those TDs up, baby, just like we saw Kenyon Drake do last season. But the good thing here is we expect that. We understand that's probably coming, or at least you should be. If you just pick Chase Edmonds expecting him to be a pass-catching weapon and an efficient back that maybe gets you fringe RB2 numbers on a week-to-week basis, maybe even mid-level RB2 numbers in this PPR format, you're looking at a situation that could be pretty nice for you. So let's make a draft pick here. I'm running out of time, so I got to make sure this thing keeps rolling ahead. Let's just dip back into some upside at that running back position. I feel good taking Raheem Mostert here. Again, as my RB4 in a 10-team league, this is why I'm drafting these players. You typically won't see me take them in 12-team rosters. And there you see Jokester capitalizing on that goal line upside from James Conner. He's probably not going to be the pass-catching back or have much usage in that area of the field, but he will have a role and he will have a purpose in the sense that he'll come in there and snatch up those carries in that area of the field. So it might be Will Fuller time for me here. All the next players up are, I don't like David Johnson. That backfield's so crowded. And then it's just a bunch of quarterbacks, and I've already got Lamar Jackson. I can wait. Those players aren't going off the board here. So, I could go with Leonard Fournette and just really double down. What is this? This is the 10th round. Okay. Well, all right. Those running backs, those rookies I was waiting for, didn't make it to me in the early 9th round, of course. So Maybe we'll play the odds here and just keep tossing dart throws at the running back spot. And of those 5 players, I would assume at least 2 of them will be hits for us. Saquon is almost a guaranteed lock-it-in pick. Darrell Henderson, hopefully, we hope he can. Chase Edmonds, we hope he can. But Leonard Fournette's technically the starter for that Tampa Bay offense. He's a player that's interesting, dynamic enough to watch. Probably won't see much receiving work, but is a threat to steal goal line carries from Rojo or vice versa. However you look at it, they'll both be involved in that area of the field. And he was a monster down the stretch in the postseason last year, so that bodes well for his fantasy value as well. Raheem Mostert is dynamic, electric in the open field. Again, these are players I don't typically take in 12-team leagues because I've got my eyes set on running back a lot earlier, and I'm not trying to make up for lost time at the back end of the draft. But with how good my wide receiver core has come together and with how good I feel about that quarterback spot, my top running back option, I felt it was at least okay and respectable to wait on that position there. So Zach Moss was another name I was highly considering because he's actually an underrated pass catcher, and I was going to see what happened with him there, but it would have been a bit of a reach. I have Fournette ranked a little bit higher on my draft guide ratings, so that would have been not something terrible to do. We did at the top of the board just to talk about a different player, but I haven't shined or shown much light on Fournette this season, so I figured I'd do that. So if I could get my hands on Gronkowski with this next pick, that would be fantastic. Logan Thomas is another name I'm looking at, entertaining the idea of. Otherwise, if those players are gone, I'm going to continue fading the tight end spot. I don't really see a major glaring difference between those names and the rest of the guys on the board. None of these players are going to walk in and be elite volume plays. Robert Tonyan, I'm a Green Bay Packer fan, but I'll be the first guy to tell you, last season, he is not a bad player. He's, in fact, a very good player, but the production was a fluke. Unless he magically pulls more target share out of somewhere magical, he's not going to get more passes. He caught 52 of 59 balls thrown his way, which is a very, very low number, first of all. And second of all, that's a crazy high rate to be catching those balls at. So he was majorly used as a threat on play-action passes, where everyone would be watching Devontae Adams and just have tunnel vision, and then Tonyan would just wiggle right through the defense. He's a good player, don't get me wrong. He's really good buddies with George Kittle, and I call him Mini Kittle because he's literally like molded his hairstyle. He wears like the same brace thing on his shoulder, and he looks like mini George Kittle. Like, he literally looks like a disciple of George Kittle, but he's not going to just walk out here and have 100 targets. I mean, Logan Thomas had 110 at least. At least there's some floor there. He's going to be catching passes and being used effectively in this offense. Although I do think it's a really weird situation where a quarterback breaks out, or a quarterback that transitioned to tight end breaks out at his age 29 season. It's so weird. It looks like we're not even going to have to explore that situation because Gronk is on the table. The reason I'm not going Gesicki here is that there's just 2 tight end sets in Miami. I don't fully trust Tua yet. I would feel much more comfortable just investing into the Rob Gronkowski sweepstakes of touchdown, no touchdown. That's fine by me. At this point, in basically the 12th round, at the very late 11th, I thought it was fine to go about and do that. There's not too many players that if I miss out on right here, I'm going to be like, oh, shoot, and upset with. So Darnell Mooney is a very nice play. It's one of my favorite sleepers here on the channel. A little bit of an early pick by Jokester on him there, but I absolutely think it's justifiable 100% of the time. I've got him soaring up my draft rankings with Anthony Miller leaving. And I think that ADP and consensus is a bit behind on him as a player. So just as he did a bit of a reach there on Darnell Mooney, I'm going to turn right around here and do a bit of a reach on my guy. I'm going to go out here and get Elijah Moore. I think he's the best wide receiver option on the table right now. Marquise Brown's dealing with an injury. Not a big fan of him. Michael Pittman is rising in my rankings over Paris Campbell and T.Y. Hilton now that Carson Wentz is out of the lineup, because I think a more prototypical wideout who just has an all-around skill set is better suited for that team. Michael Gallup, the third wide receiver option in his offense, let alone behind Zeke. I just think Elijah Moore has got the chance to step up and do huge things week 1 and moving forward. If he gets the chance to start, he is going to make things happen. He's got on his meter the names of all, I think it was 7 wide receivers that went before him on draft day. Excuse me. This kid's motivated. He's got a chip on his shoulder. He's hungry. He wants to be a great player, and he should be able to be one with the work ethic, the drive, the talent, everything put together. He should have what it takes. And you talk about Zach Wilson, a dynamic playmaker out of the pocket. That should be something that's really good to look into here. So if you want to go out, grab yourself an SFS draft guide collection for this coming season. I will have my sleeper, my master list of sleepers linked to their draft guide profiles in there by the end of the weekend. So I'll be working on that the day this video comes out, actually. And really, my end date to have every piece of content put out in that draft guide collection is August the 9th by the end of the day. So that's when everything will be in there. And from that on out, I'll just be updating content and shoveling more stuff at you as we hear news out of camp. But in terms of profiles, sleepers, all that good stuff, most must-own players, must-fade players, busts, that stuff will all be linked in there by the end of the weekend. So Elijah Moore is absolutely a player on that list. So is Darnell Mooney, Corey Davis. We're getting into a little bit of a sneak peek here, but there is a lot of other names on there. So there's 3 of them that just went in the last round and a half here. And, it was if you've been sticking around here watching my videos every day, I would say that was no shocker to you, no surprise, because I've talked ad nauseum about all 3 of those guys, even had them featured in some sleeper videos. So something to just keep your eye out for the rest of the summer, as I'll probably make another 1 or 2 of those. But let's take a look at the roster here. And unfortunately, I'm running a little bit short on time, so I don't know if I'll have time to do an in-depth recap of every team for today's episode, but I'll make sure I get around to doing that for Mock Draft Monday when we have the subscribers and the Discord members back in here. Our team in particular, really not too many holes. I think it's just time to go out there, establish some more depth at the wide receiver position. I've already went out there, cranked 5 draft picks into the running back position. I could grab a second quarterback, although it's not a priority for me. We'll just see what happens here leading up to our pick. Pick out a name we think we like here. The running backs are just shot. That's why you can't wait till the spot to draft them. They're just all handcuffs. I do like Nelson Aguilar. I have been picking him a lot, though. Russell Gage might be the pick here. I absolutely feel that if I do not pick Russell Gage with my 13th round pick, Jokester will snatch him right from underneath me at that 13-10 or 14-1 spot. So that'll be our draft pick, unless another one of the Discord members gets to him first. Let's see. Drum roll, please. Justin Fields. All right. Well, that was one of my quarterback picks I was going to make. So makes my choice easier. Boom. Russell Gage. We'll see if Jokester feels that I sniped him or if he actually didn't have plans of drafting Gage. But Russell Gage in a full PPR league is going to be a really quality number 2 option in lineups at times. The volume he saw as the number 3 in Atlanta last year was fantastic. He's moving up in the world, moving up on that depth chart, and getting some more opportunities in that offense this season. So stuff you love to see from a player who's got some nice talent as well. Hurry up and make this next pick here. Ooh, okay, Henry Ruggs is an interesting one. We'll go with it here. I wanted to talk about Bryan Edwards today, but this is a 10-team league, so it would seem like a pretty large reach to go out and try and acquire him at this spot. Pretty much all the Raiders wide receivers can be classified as sleepers because they all have upside of some sort. They all have a skill set that seems unique to their offense and seems like can be put on display and really reflect well on themselves. Henry Ruggs can't run routes that well as of last season. Hopefully he's improved that, because I think he could be a special player if he does, because the top-end speed he has is ridiculous. But, man, he better have polished up those routes. He apparently added 13 pounds, wants to play physical. That's cool. But, man, get your route running down. I feel like I'm bashing the player I just picked here. But at the end of the day, that's what's going to be the difference for him in the National Football League. John Ross couldn't run routes, and look where he is right now. And he also couldn't stop pulling his hamstrings. But, yeah, he's got high upside just because of his field stretching ability. He can score in a flash. One play is all he needs. So there's the potential there. Bryan Edwards, A name I'll touch on briefly here. John Gruden actually said looks like Terrell Owens on the field. That's a pretty lofty statement to say about a second-year player who only played, I forget if it was 3 or 5 games in his rookie season. And he said he looked like one of the number 1 wideouts in the league. So you could potentially be getting yourself into a very advantageous situation in a deeper league if you take a late-round flyer on the man, the myth, the legend, Bryan Edwards, the second-year, third-round pick. I forget what college he's from. Let's take a peek here. I'm a great typer, guys. Just look. All right, the 6'3" man out of South Carolina. Yes, that rings a bell. I remember seeing him on the field. Had some other South Carolina receivers come out very recently. I want to say it was Debo. It was Debo Samuel. I'm going to make a fool of myself here if I'm just not actually. Debo's already been picked. Here we go. Debo Samuel. Ha! I was right. South Carolina. I felt like I had seen another player. And then Shee Smith came out of South Carolina as well this year. Excuse me. Wow. I should check that over while I'm editing this video, because that might have been a ear-piercingly loud cough if you are wearing headphones. So I apologize for that. Tre'Quan Smith, a quality rookie pick made there. The Washington football team defense. Here we go. I'm going to make sure I capitalize on that group before this video runs out. Oof, there goes my Steelers. Can San Fran hang on? 2 picks. Give me San Francisco. I would love me a great pass rush. I just know they're going to go here. I mean, the defensive run has started. We've been talking about runs here the past couple of days on the channel and when to capitalize. There's one team I like left in the run. If they're not there, I'm just going to let it go, because at that point, the tiers have really dropped off for the defenses. Cole Beasley, let's go. All right, great pick there. I love me some Cole Beasley, but man, do I love me some 49ers pass rush. That secondary is a little iffy, but I think that we can live with having Nick Bosa come back with some of those big boys in the D-line. We'll see. We got one more pick here. What happens? And then we'll hit you in the outro. Maybe I pick a quarterback. At this point, I've pretty much addressed every position. Yeah, not loving the tight ends are nothing special at this point. We'll take Matt Ryan, end things off here. Give me the high volume of that Falcons offense over the efficiency of the Browns. I just think that the Browns are more run-focused, run-based. And yes, Baker will hit big play-action balls, hopefully to OBJ. I guess I'd have the stack on this team, but I'd never start Baker over Lamar Jackson, nor would I start Matt Ryan over Lamar Jackson. But it would also be, I think, a situation where the Falcons are going to be trailing, trying to catch up later in games. They're just not as good of a football team, so a lot more passes to be had in general, aside from the fact that they're just a pass-first team, and their run game sucks. So they're not going to run the ball that much if they can help it or can manage it, because they might want to make the run game a part of their offense, but they found out last year it was so inefficient with Todd Gurley, they just had to do something else. So 4 picks to go here, and then I'll see you guys in the outro. Quick shout out again and a big thank you to the SFS community Discord members for dropping into today's video. Obviously making a great time here. We had an awesome one. Had it go a little bit quicker than I like to. Would have liked to break down picks, have some more time to talk things over here. But again, I apologize as I have somewhere to be after this video is recorded. So I'll get this chopped up, edited, and then have this out first thing on Saturday morning. And with that being said, the Browns are the last pick. So I will see you all in the outro. Alrighty, there was another subscriber mock draft here on the SFS channel. Thank you all so much for tuning in to today's video. If you're new around here, I would love to see you pop in for next week's episode and be a part of the mock draft featured here on the channel. So again, all you got to do to be in that is head down to the Discord invite link in the description of today or any other of my videos here on the SFS channel. With that being said, subscribe if you're new around here. Make sure to leave this video with a like, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace out.